the importance of passing on financial literacy cannot be like overstated, right? So, just as important as it is if you have the means financially to like set your kids up, whether that's opening, a 529 account for them or investing in a Roth IRA, it's just as important for you to teach them good stewardship.
David, do you remember when we became retirement millionaires?
Yeah, I was 51 and you were 48.
Do you think our lives would have been different had we reached that milestone sooner?
Oh, definitely. I think we would be fully retired, probably on a beach somewhere, sipping a glass of wine.
Welcome to Living Not So Fabulously, where we share money stories of those doing things differently to build generational wealth.
Today, we're answering the question of how to build generational wealth as a parent with a side hustle or a business of your own, because we know in today's economy with a W-2, even a well-paying W-2, it's just not possible to build the American dream anymore.
Joining us to guide that conversation is Jannese Torres. Jannese is the creator and the host of the award-winning personal finance podcast, Yo Quiero Dinero, and the author of the best-selling book, Financially Lit.
For over a decade of experience as a six-figure entrepreneur, Janice runs several businesses that have enabled her to recover from being fired in 2014, build generational wealth, and help countless others become entrepreneurs just like her so they can build generational wealth with their families too.
Okay. Thank you so much, y'all. It's such an honor to be here. I'm really excited to talk to you. And this topic is really, really dear to my heart because it's something that, like y'all, I did not get to experience. And so I'm really eager to break the cycle.
Awesome. Excited for this.
Definitely. It is a topic that is very interesting to us and one that you brought to our attention when you posted about it on Threads and you and I started this conversation. I was like piling on to what you were saying there. And I think it's great that you are doing this and other parents have the opportunity to do this too. John and I have been following your entrepreneurial journey for years, from listening to your podcast and the things that you post online and your as well as your blog. We're just wondering if you could give us a quick synopsis of how you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I always tell people I am definitely an accidental entrepreneur. This was not part of my plan whatsoever. I actually am a former engineer. So I worked in the engineering space in pharmaceuticals, biotech, consumer goods for 15 years. And I did that because I received the very common messaging, I'd say, from my parents to get one of three jobs, either become a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, because that's how you make money. And so I was like, I don't want to be working with blood and bodily fluids. And I'm really not a combative person. So I don't think I'm set out to be an attorney. So I followed the engineering route. I was always good at science and math. And so that took me down a path of making a bunch of money, but not knowing what the heck I was doing with it. And eventually I ended up doing some Google searches, finding out about financial independence, starting side hustle, really learning about money. And by 2021, all the stuff that I'd been learning and applying gave me the opportunity to turn my blog and content creation side hustle into a full-time gig. And I've been a fully self-employed since then.
Very nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
So how has becoming an entrepreneur changed your life and your lifestyle?
Wow. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. I'll say that. I think the internet tends to glamorize entrepreneurship. Social media has everybody out here flexing their Lamborghinis. And, that's cool. I don't think that's most people's reality. But what it has done for me is really allowed me to have way more control over my time and also way more control over my income, which is something that I didn't really understand in the beginning of this journey, like how powerful it can be to learn how to repackage your skills that you may have picked up in your corporate career and learn how to really pitch those in different ways that can earn you way more money. So I'm just grateful for the fact, especially now as a new mom, of what entrepreneurship had given to me because I've been here every day with her. I get to work from home, I get to decide my hours, and I know I wouldn't have that same experience if I was still in my corporate career.
Right. Yeah. But I think it's totally true that entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
And I do feel like since the pandemic, people have gotten a little bit more honest about that. Like the whole idea of wake up and grind is like, that's old old hat. People don't want that anymore, and I think people are getting a little bit more honest about what entrepreneurship looks like, but I think it's still a little bit, we still sell the dream.
Yeah. Folks, if you're just joining us, this is Living Not So Fabulously, where we share tips on how to turn your money story into something fabulous. Today, we're speaking with double entrepreneur, author, and host of the Yo Quiero Dinero podcast, Jannese Torres. Now, Janice, you just mentioned that you have added a new member to your family recently. When did that happen? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so my husband and I started thinking about becoming parents in the beginning of 2024, and as soon as we made the decision, we found out we were pregnant. So it was like, okay, talk about manifestation.
Right.
And yeah, we welcomed our daughter into the world in December of 2024. And I think it was by like February of 2025, she was officially on the company payroll. So I'm super excited to tell you guys how that's been going because it's been a really, really fun experience now getting to integrate her into this world that I've built and obviously knowing the impact of what that income is going to do for her. I mean, I'm kind of jealous, quite honest. I'm like, wow, you are just going to have such a different future than I did.
So how did it occur to you to put her on your payroll? That just never would have crossed my mind.
Yeah, so I follow a lot of different content creators in a bunch of different niches. And so most folks might be familiar with the idea of like parenting influencers or family influencers that, you'll see them online and they'll be part of brand deals and things like that. And so I was thinking about how I can incorporate that same aspect of like featuring my daughter in my content, but also in a way that's respectful to her. I don't show her face on content and I just have made that decision as a parent to protect her identity and to like let her be the one to decide what kind of digital presence she has. So when she's in my content, it's either like a silhouette or from behind, or there's an implication that she's there because she's in a stroller, but you don't necessarily like see her. And so I decided, let me start featuring her in relevant content, whether it's like I'm partnering with an estate planning brand and we're talking about the importance of planning for, your family's financial future, or if I'm working with a life insurance company. So anytime she's involved with the business, it's directly correlated to some partnership that I'm doing. And some marketing promotion that just makes sense, and especially that I can talk to the IRS if I ever got audited, and it's like, hey, it's like I'm not just paying her for no reason. She's actually serving as a content model because it adds to the storytelling dynamic of this particular partnership.
I love that. Do you think you can put our dogs on our payroll?
If you guys partner with a pet insurance company, you could totally get away with that.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but necessarily because they don't have social security numbers. But I do think it's interesting that you are doing this, and that I think it's something more parents need to talk about especially entrepreneurs and individuals with side hustles. Is there a way to, because it's a way of helping your kids become money savvy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the importance of passing on financial literacy cannot be like overstated, right? So, just as important as it is if you have the means financially to like set your kids up, whether that's opening, a 529 account for them or investing in a Roth IRA, it's just as important for you to teach them good stewardship. So, I think talking about money early and often is definitely something that is important, and it makes money less scary, which, most people grow up in households where it's like taboo or you don't talk about money. And I'm just of the completely different belief system where money is power and we should instill that power in our kids.
Yeah, definitely. So, question for you, since you have your daughter on your payroll, is there a maximum that a child can earn where they don't have to file a tax return when they're earning that money from a parent?
So actually there is no limit, but the important part is that you as a parent have to be providing more than half of their support. So things like food, housing, medical, etc., in order to still claim them as a dependent. That's what you need to be thinking about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that actually didn't cross my mind.
Yeah, I kind of think about, I know that, you have if you think back over time and there are child actors and models and individuals like that that may be earning $5,000 for a photo shoot or something like that, but probably working in a entrepreneurial business of their parents, they're probably not going to have command that kind of money. So it would make sense that you would pay your you can pay your child, but you still have to be responsible for maintaining their lifestyle as a parent to have them as a dependent on your taxes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How do you pay her exactly? Does she have like a bank account, and does she have an IRA account, or like where does the money go, and does
Does.
it get invested?
Yeah, so I have an invoicing system, so she's paid, as a independent contractor because the it's project-based work versus, like, her working a specific number of hours a week. Obviously, she's a year old, so can't do that yet, but, who knows in the future. So yeah, she has a high yield savings account, she has a checking account, she has her Roth IRA, she's got a UTMA account, so a regular brokerage account, and she has a 529 plan. So I pay her through the invoice. The money goes into her checking account, and then I distribute it across different accounts. So put a little bit in the Roth, put some in her some in her high yield savings account. And my goal last year was to max out her Roth IRAs because we know the power of compound interest, especially when you have a bunch of time on your hands. And we love tax free income. And so I was able to max out her account right around November. So lucky her.
Oh,
Wow.
that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and what's great is like through most of this work, she's probably sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. Or she's like, and got a cute outfit on, walking around, living her best life. I'm like, ma'am, if you only knew how hard it is to earn this money sometimes.
I think
There are a lot of adults who are jealous that
yeah.
she has a maxed out on it, right?
She has the job I want though.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hold that thought. We'll be right back after a quick break here. Welcome back to Living Not So Fabulously. We're back talking about turning your kid into a retirement millionaire with Jannese Torres of the Yo Quiero Dinero podcast. So, you did just talk about the contributions that you maxed out. What are there different limits for what a parent can or contribute for a child's Roth IRA or traditional IRA?
So that limit is the exact same limit that's applicable to you and I as adults. So for 2025, that limit was $7,000. It's actually gone up a little bit for 2026, so it's actually 7,500 bucks. The key here is that you cannot contribute more to the IRA than they have earned. So if they've only earned $5,000 for the year, that's as much as you can contribute. You can't do the full $7,500 unless they've been paid at least that much.
Oh, that makes sense.
And, sorry, go ahead. And it's just a traditional like, and then that's not the right word. It's just your standard Roth IRA, right? There's not like a different kind of Roth IRA that a parent would have to get.
So essentially, it is a custodial Roth account. So what that means is that she is the beneficiary of the account, but I am the custodian. So I manage the investments, and she can't access that money until she is of age, a majority, which is 18 or 21, dependent on the state that you live in.
Gotcha.
Interesting. I think about this as the option to be able to really help your kids understand investing, right? I know for my son, we had a custodial account, but that it wasn't a tax-free custodial account, and that was it was a uniform transfer to minors account. I was the custodian on the account, and we had that set up so that it wasn't until he turned 25 that the money would go to he would have control over the money, but when he was, I think, 11 or 12, I started having conversations with him around investing and the fact that this money was growing for him. And because as a custodial account, we were taking when he wanted something, we were taking money out of the account and buying that for him because he was basically saying, "Hey, I want to use some of my money for this or this." And obviously, we didn't pull out $100 so he could go buy movie tickets or something like that. It was more things like buying him a phone or a computer.
I've never like when your time horizon when you're like not even 1 year old, like your time horizon is so far out there. Like what kind of investments? How did you invest your money to get started?
So right now, I'm doing a 50-50 split between a diversified US-based broad fund and an international fund. So she's basically getting exposure to the entire global economy, stock wise, which at this point, her being so young, she can definitely take advantage of that aggressive investing strategy, just knowing that she's got, I mean, decades upon decades for that money to work on her in her favor.
Yeah. Gotcha. Interesting. And I guess the last year, the global probably did better than the US base, huh?
It did, I think that was eye-opening for a lot of people. So, it's just the importance of always kind of keeping tabs on what's going on in the market because just, historical data doesn't always tell you what is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there a maximum you can pay your child when you are employing them?
So, first, I like to really preface this by saying you must talk to a CPA, ideally one who is familiar with your line of work. Not every CPA understands like the world of content creation. And so it's important to find somebody who can really advise you to make sure that you're not running into, tax law issues. That being said, you have to pay them what is considered reasonable pay. So, for example, you can't give them $5,000 for like taking a picture. You have to go based on like what is the standard reasonable salary or pay rate for this specific type of work, and then they can actually earn up to the standard deduction, which is $16,100 in 2026, and not have to file for federal income taxes, which is a great way for me as the business owner to essentially write off her pay as a tax deduction, right, on my behalf, because now it gets converted from profits to employee wages, essentially. And then she's not paying taxes on that either. So this is a really important hack that small business owners and folks who can employ family members to really take advantage of because it's essentially leaving money on the table if you don't know about it. And the last thing I want to mention is that you have to withhold for FICA and Social Security taxes, but only after the age of 18. So if they're working for your business and they're under the age of 18, you don't have to actually withhold for any of those payroll or self-employment taxes.
So I'm curious how you came up with the pay commensurate with the work. Was that based off of what you charge as, because you're kind of doing similar work, or is it like a fraction of what you charge or salary.com?
So I did a lot of like market research when it comes to average pay for like content modeling because you can do a lot of that research just on Google or even like Glassdoor or Payscale or those types of websites. But also I like to factor in just paying her a percentage of the overall brand partnership fee. So like for example, if I'm getting paid like $10,000 for a brand collaboration, I'll give her like $1,000. And so it's not that there's like a, a perfect formula, but I think it's just good to have sort of what average looks like. And then the most important thing is that you can explain it, right? In the event of an audit, you can just show like where the money's coming from, what the kind of work that's being done. She has obviously all of these invoices that are paper trails essentially of where the money's coming from. So just documenting things and just keeping your ducks in a row is really important in this process.
So, with all this money going into maxing out your retirement accounts at the age of one,
Not even.
right? um, do you have an anticipated date when you think your daughter will become a retirement millionaire?
I've done some of the calculations, and I'm pretty sure, like, by the time she's 30, she's basically gonna be set, which I'm just like, I feel like that's a perfect age because 30 is, like, when the first quarter life crisis begins to emerge and you wanna maybe potentially, like, reinvent yourself, and, like, what better time to have a bunch of money to go travel the world or, like, start a new career or whatever. So, I love that for her because in my 30s, I definitely was in throes of an existential crisis, but did not have the money to go and on a eat, pray, love journey and figure out like what I wanted to do with my life.
Right. The one thing I love about what you're saying here is I know that some folks may be saying, well, it's a retirement account and you can't take that money out or you're going to pay a penalty. Because you're using a Roth, she's able to withdraw any of the contributions without having to pay any taxes on
Any of the
them,
principal,
right?
none of the growth.
I'm sorry, the principal. Those contributions can be withdrawn, and then the rest of it can continue to grow.
Absolutely. And one thing I do want to mention as well, it's a kind of a new development as of 2024 with 529 accounts. Because oftentimes parents hear about these accounts for saving for education and they think to themselves, do I want to pigeonhole this money into education if my kid ends up not going to college, or, maybe they start a business instead. What am I going to do with all this money that's been like segmented and earmarked for education? And as of recently, you can actually convert up to $35,000 worth of a 529 plan into a Roth. So it's just a great option to know that you're not stuck just having this money that needs to be used for education now that the rules have been relaxed a little bit.
Yeah, and they've expanded what the definition of education is and when you can take that education. So 529 plans are just gold mines for moms and dads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think when you look at all of the options now, especially if you're a parent who is money savvy and has a ability to grow a gap between your family's expenses and your income, funneling money into all these different types of accounts are ways to help build generational wealth, or even wealth for when your kids need it while they're still young adults. Yeah,
Yeah, my husband and I talk about that all the time because he has a trust in his name and things like that. But his father is relatively young because he had him around the age of 20. So he's like, I'm probably not even going to see that money till I'm like 60 something years old. I definitely could have used it in my like broke 20s versus, when I've had all this time to establish my own financial wellness. So it is nice to know that she's going to have so many more options financially because she doesn't have to wait for basically us to drop dead to like leave her kind of money. Um, and one more thing that I want to mention, especially since we're talking about generational wealth, what I love about 529 plans too is that you can add folks into the party. So, like for example, for Christmas, I sent the 529 link to my parents and said, "Hey, she has enough toys. Can you guys make a contribution to her 529 plan?" And so you can do that for birthdays, any kind of special occasions, and like get everybody in on the fun of building generational wealth. Because I mean, what's better than that?
Right.
So
Yeah. We're doing the same thing for our great nieces, and we are contributing to their 529 plans as their uncles.
I
So,
love that. That's how
yeah.
you make
So,
real change.
for those of our listeners who are interested, who are entrepreneurs, or who have a side hustle that would allow them to do this, what would you say are maybe the 2 to 3 steps that would get them started and are probably the most important?
Sure. So I'd say absolutely talk to a CPA and make sure that you guys have a clear plan of how you're going to document this work. The next thing is figuring out how you're going to pay them, right? So if you have an invoicing system, and where those that money's going to be deposited as far as checking in a savings account, and then just making sure that the work is reasonable for the child's age and just for the nature of your business. And when you have those three things kind of squared away, you're in a good position to start this process.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, Janice, for joining us. We really appreciate your sharing your story as well as the plans you have for your daughter.
Thank you so much for the invitation, y'all.
One of the important points to remember here about building generational wealth is to not get trapped in a box of the only time we give generational wealth to our children is when we pass away through investments or a home, but that we can actually help build generational wealth as business owners by employing them and helping them build their own financial security.
finally, we dropped the names of a number of different types of accounts that might be appropriate for your kids today, anywhere from 529 plans to custodial accounts. Whether you're an entrepreneur or not, talk with a CPA about these types of accounts and which would be good for your kids.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you see, scan the QR code to follow Yahoo Finance Podcast for more videos and expert insights, because when you do, you'll build generational wealth for your family too. And until next time, stay fabulous.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.